This is the audio version of the movie formula color themes. So you're going to use this information with your movie poster when we begin to make it. Different movies have different kinds of color themes. You'll notice it over and over again in different designs. And so for action films, mostly, not all the time, but mostly action films utilize the high contrast of blue and orange colors. You'll notice to the side over here, the Bourne Identity poster changed a lot of the photographs on the right-hand side, colorized them with a color adjustment, and they have turned more yellow orange-ish, and then the other half is very much in the blue family. So sometimes you find flames, things like that, explosions for action films. More examples of some films that show action, also showing their blue and orange contrasts. Drama and suspense movies, on average, tend to show some black and orange. A division between the two sometimes. You see next to us here the Seven movie, The Seven Deadly Sins with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. A lot of darks versus a lot of bright areas between the black and the orange colors. If there's a thriller, drama, suspense movie, typically somebody's running away. You can see that here at the bottom for the American poster. George Clooney, suspense, thriller, drama. He's on the run. Wacky comedies, like buddy film movies, silly things going on. Do you know you're going to see a humorous movie? It is a comedy. Almost always have white backgrounds. Red, and in this case with McCarthy, you've got her wearing a sort of a red-pink color, but red accents, sometimes the red accents are in the title, but very much used for buddy, wacky comedies. Check out Dodgeball, Little Man, Bowfinger. Also, the lettering is very chunky and bold and fat and easy to read. Romantic comedies, gag, right? All right, you find a lot of white backgrounds. You see the couple often are back to back because, you know, they didn't like each other at first and then they fall in love, yada, yada, yada. You'll find some reds and some pinks. It's amazing how this stuff keeps falling over and over itself. You see this on a lot of movie posters. So keep your eye out at movie theaters. You'll see a lot of these pop up. Kids movies. A lot of kids movies end up utilizing blues, whether it's a blue sky, whether it's blue characters. Blue and bright colors dominate the kids movies. Large figures, large character faces, and bright colors. You also see a very wide and chunky, easy to read font style. Superhero movies. The trend recently has been showing things almost made out of steel. They're dark, but then they have this bright illuminating white light or the strongest color in the logo. It's a bit grungy at times. So like using some filters like the filter grain and other different filters can be layered and then set to kind of a transparency to give you sort of this grunge feel. Independent films, they have to stand out amongst the big movie companies, and so to do that, for years they've always used some kind of a yellow or a yellow-orange to capture their essence to stand off at the movie theaters. They're typically very minimalistic in what they have on them. They're not normally very busy. Horror films. For some reason, eyeballs tend to be very scary, or close-ups of people's faces. So we find that a lot. Shadows. You can see the shadow of a knife over the girl's face on the left. You see the haunting, peeking eyeball out of the Grudge. And then, well, the Eye movie would obviously have an eye, right? They tend to be high contrast, dark versus light. A lot of them will have dark grays and blacks. Weighted lettering. Look at the chunky lettering again. Scream and Chucky both are very broad lettering styles. And if there's going to be any color, it's going to be a spot of color, kind of like in these eyeballs or in the hint of reds in the lettering. Font styles. I've mentioned fonts more than once. The big rule is don't overdo too many font styles. Okay, they typically say don't use more than 2 different font styles in a movie poster. Keep it simple, keep it readable, and keep it bold. You can see over on some of these samples that there's really only 2 different lettering fonts kind of going on. The fancy one for La La Land, and then the more simple that they use smaller and a little bit bigger for the actors' names. Justice League obviously has its own sort of logo lettering, and then they use the movie poster font in all capitals for all of the actors' names. The end.